Before we get into the subject of today's video, which is predominantly based in Russia, I want to properly and formally introduce you to Cthulhu. So you've seen him maybe a couple of times now on this screen, but I've only recently managed to move him into a cage where he properly belongs. Now I dub him Cthulhu because he said stupid things like this.
You know, you started quoting people who I've got no idea who they are. This Misa person. I'm like, is your argument going to be, what's it, the argument from authority or the argument from popularity? Because neither argument actually work. Suit yourself was rude to me. They're all right-wing pieces of shit that I never watch anyway. You know, I haven't watched an irate bear, well, anything to do with him. You're all crying and screaming about how the country would be much better off run by right-wing governments and how Trump would do so much for the poor. And, you know, he's come into power and he's done fuck all, and you're all tight-lipped. Wrong!
The man is clearly a genius, and shall forever remain within that cage, where he can no longer inflict such retardedness on the rest of the general population. Are you happy, Suit? I've taken responsibility of one of the retards from the peanut gallery. Now to get back on topic, today's subject matter comes from Russia, as I earlier stated, where a girl aged 6, whose lip was bitten off by her own mother to, quote, stop her crying, dies a year after being adopted. I have to say, in what universe does inflicting more pain onto someone make them want to stop crying? I can't think of any normal child that would stop crying if you just started beating them more and more and more. Especially if you actually inflict something that removes a part of them from them, in this case, biting their lip off. To compound this, Katya, the child, suffered from cerebral palsy, so she already had issues, and all it was that she started crying at night, which woke her mother, who then got so angry at being woken, she decided to beat her child into the ground, and when that didn't work, bite her lip. Oh, and try and rip her nose off as well. If this happened in England, that mother would be on blast. There is no court that could hide her identity. While my courts are an absolute joke, they do have certain ways of dealing with child abusers of this standard, because this is something unique. You see, with a child that has cerebral palsy, and what we find out later in this article, many other health-related issues that were never treated because the mother failed to get her properly tended to, this child required round-the-clock care, help, and most of all love from someone that should supposedly love them. Not somebody that is supposedly worn out to the point where they've decided the only way to truly resolve the issue is to brutally harm their child. And to make my stance on this case quite clear, the sentence for this crime is life. I would send you to Black Dolphin, and I would leave you there. I cannot trust you around anyone enough. And I'm well aware, a lot of my viewers and subscribers will say the sentence is death. They are free to say that. But I want you to suffer for ever so slightly more, and Black Dolphin is a perfect place for you. In 2015, Katya, foreign, aged 6 at the time, was assaulted by her mother, foreign, then 33, in the town of Revda in west-central Russia's foreign region. Katya, who suffered from cerebral palsy, started crying at night and woke her mother, who became enraged at being woken up. The mother approached Katya's bed and attacked her daughter, started beating the girl, telling her to shut up, but the terrified youngster began crying even louder. The enraged mother then clenched her teeth onto Katya's lower lip in anger and tore it off. I would love to know what was going through that mother's head when she decided to do that. I really would. What insanity made her think, well, she can't scream if she has no lip, even though the vocal cords aren't quite there. With all the suffering this mother put her through, it's truly astonishing she didn't kill her daughter, and that is in and of itself predicated on the assumption that she was not responsible for the heart failure her daughter suffered a year later. Katya spent several days in intense pain without medicine before her mother finally decided to do her parental duty and call an ambulance. The girl was rushed to hospital and doctors said that the mother had tried to bite Katja's nose as well during the ordeal but failed. What did her teeth finally give out? I'm guessing this mother doesn't actually have any understanding of caring for somebody with mental disabilities, which would explain a lot. How far behind the rest of the world are you? 25 years? 50 years? 100 perhaps? Do you still think there's a Tsar? Do you still think drilling into the skull to let out evil spirits is a way for curing the headache? A small part of me thinks that your action was because of your lack of education, which a lot of people would understand, which is one of the main reasons why I thought you had only gotten a 4-year sentence, which is what you got, which is not adequate. The damage you did, the quality of that child's life, the care, the love that child was deprived of, probably proper care as well, based on the fact that the doctors also found lots of bruises, fresh and old, on the victim's body. This raises an alarming question about domestic abuse in Russia. Now, this event took place in 2015. Russia has some rather interesting laws when it comes to domestic violence and domestic battery, where in 2017, the lawmakers in Russia, and Putin most notably, relaxed the laws around domestic violence to try and preserve the family, where certain beatings and types of beatings of a partner or family member were no longer a criminal offence, which all sounds very weird. That's an odd way to go about protecting the dear, dear nuclear family. What do you think happened when he did that? I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, I'm done with that. Domestic battery surges in Russia after decriminalisation. This isn't like gun law or knife law. This is something else entirely. Knowing what you can and cannot do to someone else. There is a fine line between what is and is not acceptable and what will and will not lead to further action. From what we have seen in America, the more relaxed the gun control law, the lower the gun crime. In the United Kingdom, the more knife-related laws introduced, the higher the knife crime gets. Now we look at domestic abuse, and we notice the more relaxed the interpretation of what is and is not acceptable and is not domestic violence has led to an increase in domestic battery. Therefore, we now know this law does not work. It cannot protect the family if the family is being held together under threat of pain. Now, I know this is a bit of a tangent, but I wanted to highlight the fact that Putin did, after this child's passing, introduce laws that makes it easier for people to get away with beating their members of family and their partners, because this might explain why Russia is absolutely fucked when it comes to this kind of law. Their domestic abuse and domestic battery laws are laughable, and it took me long enough to find some that were translated. Now, Katja spent a year receiving treatment in different hospitals where doctors found she was suffering from numerous neglected diseases she had contracted due to lack of care, which further cements the earlier remarks about finding additional bruising old and new on the victim's body. Now, this kid was adopted by Anna Makarova Bespalova, and yes, I made a concerted effort to try and pronounce that correctly, or pronounce it at all instead of saying foreign, as a mark of respect for someone who was willing to look after this child and give them what her mother failed to do. Katja's mother, as earlier stated, was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and the court has also deprived her of any and all parental rights, which is great. The latter part is. The 4 years part, not so much. I don't think that's enough. But as far as parental rights, is chemical castration not allowed? I'm just putting it out there. And if she does have any other children, am I right to assume she will have them taken away instantly? Now, it is truly tragic what happened to this child. I am very sorry that she passed away. It is terrible that she was born disabled. It is terrible that she was brought up by a family who didn't care. And it's obvious they didn't care. The injury she has sustained shows a lengthy period of abuse. Her life was nothing but suffering by someone that either did not understand or did not care to understand the difficulties this child was facing, which is either a damning statement of parenting 101 in Russia or the education system and mental health care in Russia. Not that either in any way excuse what this woman did to that child. Regardless of mental disabilities and illnesses, your job is to love, care, and give that child the very best. Because parents, most parents, certainly my parents, wanted us to have what they didn't have, wanted us to grow up and do better than them. You, the mother, didn't even give this child a chance. As far as I'm concerned, 4 years is remarkably lenient, and you deserve life. No parole. I don't believe in rehabilitation for this, and I know someone's going to probably make a response video just for that. You know who you are. Fuck off. Don't make excuses for people like this, because there are no excuses you can make that will in any way excuse what she did. And I'm not trying to moral grandstand. I'm giving an opinion. You know what that is, right? Anyway, I hope everyone has a lovely... was it Wednesday today? Yes, Wednesday. And thank you all for listening.
Oh, goddowns.
In your arse.
Imagine my shock